my name is Hannah. Welcome back to my channel. I have read some amazing books the last little bit and I'm really excited to talk about them. Also, good news in my life. I have been studying for 6 months to take the written driver's test in Spain and it is a pain. I have been studying and it's all been in Spanish and it has been so hard, and I finally took the written test and I passed and I am so excited. And I feel like anyone from the US looks at that and says, it's not that hard, just take a driving test. I know, I took my driving test in the US. It was not hard. I studied for maybe 15 minutes for that thing. The driving test here is so hard. And so I feel like everybody I know here has studied for years or studied for a long time and has failed a few times, and I was so scared and I'm just so relieved to have passed that. Now I just have to do the driving test and I will have a lot more freedom to get around town, and I am so excited about that. Walking everywhere is fine, but it will be so nice. And so anyways, that's my good news for the week. I am really excited about it, and now I can devote a little more time to reading. Really, the past couple days, I have reached this point where I think, I'm supposed to be studying. I don't have to study anymore. I can read. I can do some things that I like and have fun. And so I'm very excited about all that. And so maybe I'll get through more books in the next few months. Really, I have had to devote quite a bit of time to studying the last 6 months or so. And I am so glad that I can focus back on reading. So let's jump into these books. I had a really good reading week. So the first book that I want to talk about is a recommendation from Melinda over at A Web of Stories. So she has an amazing channel and I love how she talks about books. So make sure to check out her channel and I'll link it down below. But I read The Cartographers by Peng Shepherd. This book is following our main character, Nell. Her father is passionate about cartography and she grew up that being the thing that brought them together. And her mother passed away when she was very young, so she's been raised by this father who just loves maps, and they do that together. Like they go look for maps together. That is their thing. And so when she grows up, she studies maps, and she finally gets a job at the New York Public Library with her father in studying maps. Now, as she is only there for a little bit of time, she finds some maps in the basement that she thinks are really interesting, and she goes to show everyone, and her father has a completely crazy reaction, basically puts his job on the line and says, you fire her or you fire me, and then they go 10 years without speaking. So quite the dramatic what's happening there. And it's been 10 years since Nell has seen her father when she gets a call that he has died under somewhat mysterious circumstances. And it throws her back into the world of cartography, and it jumps back and forth between her timeline and what's happening then and what secrets are in these maps that somebody might kill for, as well as flashing back to when her father and mother were young and their friends and their interest in maps and where that led them. And so it jumps back and forth. It's got this magical realism thing, ended up working really well for me. I loved how it all came together. I enjoyed basically the entire time of this book. I just was having a great time. So I loved this book. Like, this was 5 stars for me. I don't know if everybody will love this kind of book, but if you enjoy something with elements of mystery and magical realism, this book was so fun. I just enjoyed it. So highly recommend. Melinda, you did it again. This was an excellent read. The next book that I read was Destiny of the Republic, A Tale of Madness, Medicine, and the Murder of a President by Candace Millard. And I have read 2 other books by Candace Millard, and I really enjoyed them. I read them this last year. And so on some of those videos, I had quite a few comments recommending this one. So I got Destiny of the Republic by Candace Millard, super excited, and it did not disappoint. Candace Millard is really good at taking these historical events that you might not know a lot about and making them engaging and interesting. And this is just really, really well done. You learn all about Garfield and his presidency, and you learn about his assassination, the medical treatment around the time, the doctors that Garfield had, the accepted treatments during the time. You learn about the assassin, you learn about some of the political things, you learn all about everything surrounding it, but it really comes together into one strong narrative. And this book was excellent. For a subject that I did not know very much about, I was just hooked and loved every minute of it. It was really heartfelt and very factual and didn't shy away from things that were a little bit messier. And I just think that Candace Millard does a really, really good nonfiction. So I think if you want a good biography, pick this up. I think you would really, really like it. It is a great nonfiction, and yeah, just highly recommend. Such a good read. So the next two books I actually found as recommendations from Scott over at Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. So make sure to check out his channel. He has some of the best book recommendations, as well as very focused on Australia. He's from Australia, and you get maybe a different perspective if you are not from that part of the world, and I really appreciate that. So the first book I picked up was The White Girl by Tony Birch. This is following an Aboriginal woman named Odette in the 1960s in Australia. She has been raising her granddaughter, and her granddaughter is very fair-skinned, and she has been trying to keep her daughter away from the welfare authorities who find fair-skinned kids and a lot of times remove them from their families. And she is doing her best to keep her granddaughter safe and work within this system that is set against her. And I learned so much about what happened during this time in the 1960s in Australia. I was not aware of this kind of system, this like conservatorship kind of thing, this very paternalistic view of Aboriginal peoples in Australia and how they were treated during this time. I was like vaguely aware that, oh, I know that a lot of the native peoples of Australia haven't been treated very well, but I didn't know a ton, and I feel like this was very informative for me because I don't know as much about Australian history as I would like. And also, it was just a really heartfelt story, and I really feel like it just was well done. Everything came together really nicely, but also felt very authentic and true to the story that was trying to be told. I feel like the author had a very authentic voice going into this. It didn't feel contrived. It felt very natural and very heartfelt. Highly, highly recommend. I think either if you know a lot about this or don't, I think anyone would really enjoy this. But for me, who comes from a perspective where, you know, I wasn't taught much about Australian history in school, this was a very interesting look into this time period. Scott also recommended the book A Disappearance in Fiji by Melinda Rao. When I first saw this book, I thought that it might be more of a straightforward mystery type of book, and it had that element, but it was a lot more than that. Our main character is a police officer who has made a mistake in his professional life and is being sent to Fiji as a form of punishment. He is Indian, and this is in 1914, and he is trying to be taken seriously and show that he is good at what he does. And no one seems to treat him with the respect that he is looking for. So he is given the case of a missing woman, and she is a missing indentured worker. And basically he is told by the higher ups, you just need to look over this, sign off on it. We do not want this to become a big deal. But of course, our main character is good at his job, and he investigates fully and has to really come to grips with what the indentured servitude program during this time meant and what kind of injustices and indignities it allowed. I thought it was very interesting to watch his struggle. You could see this. He was like, I'm Indian, these indentured servants are Indian, but I am not like them. He was trying so hard to put himself apart from them. Like, I'm not low down like they are. I'm better than that. He was forcibly reminded multiple times throughout this book that he's really not different than this group of people, and they're all being treated unfairly. And I thought that it was really an interesting social commentary, and then the mystery was very interesting as well, and really worked well with the social aspects that the author was trying to discuss. And so I think overall it was really good, and I enjoyed my full time with it. The only reason I wouldn't say best book ever is I did think that the mystery was somewhat predictable. I was like, yep, that's what happened. At the very end, there was a part where he's, oh, something doesn't feel right. I don't know what I'm missing. And I'm like, of course I know what you're missing. There's no mystery here. We all know what you're missing. So there was a little bit of that, which I find frustrating in a book that is about, it's a disappearance in Fiji. It's going to be a mystery. And I wanted the mystery to be maybe a little more difficult to figure out. But other than that, I thought this book was excellent and very readable. So yeah, I do recommend this one as well. Just be aware that the mystery probably isn't the most difficult mystery to figure out. Aside from that, this was a very enjoyable, but also very informative and interesting book, and had some moments of being very deep. That is what I've read the past week or so. And so if you have any thoughts on these books, let me know in the comments down below. It was just a really good reading week. Like, everything was just really working for me. And so I would be interested to know if you've read one of these books and it didn't work for you. Did it hit you in a different way? What happened? So let me know in the comments down below what you've thought of these books, and I will see you all on the next one.